Join me, Deborah Pettit, to explore fantastic worlds, learn writing skills, and develop a love for learning. Do you struggle with helping your kids to love to read? That is a question I'm going to answer during our YouTube Live. Yes, this is YouTube Live. Did you know that? Did you know that you have to wait 24 hours if you're a new YouTuber and your instructional videos that you watched 4 or 5 of never told you that? And then you go on, maybe the phone will do it. No, you have to have 50 subscribers to be able to have YouTube Live on your phone. So we are going old school and doing a normal video, but I'm going to do it before 10 o'clock so that you guys can have a video to watch, even though it's not going to be live. But we're going to pretend like you're all here, and I'm going to say welcome. My name is Deborah Pettit. Welcome to my channel. And I love to give writers advice that's very simple, very easy to understand. Students can understand it. And I love to be able to learn together. I am learning a lot about writing and editing, and so we're all learning together. I have so many questions that I'm going to answer today. One of them is, what are your goals for 2025? So I want to ask you, what are your goals for 2025? Put them in the comments below. Do you have writing goals? Do you have just regular goals like things that you want to do with your family? Maybe somewhere you want to travel this year. Whatever you want to do, I want to hear about it. So my goals, I am actually going to start an editing service, and I would love to edit. I love editing. I've edited on and off for 20 plus years, but I'd like to be able to edit more students' work, like stories, research papers, that kind of thing. I can edit resumes, social media content, work projects, short stories, books, right? So my editing skills include copy editing and proofreading. So I'll actually talk a little bit about copy editing and proofreading later today. But if you have a really hard time with punctuation, capitalization, grammar stuff, I'm your girl. So if you're interested in getting anything edited, go to the Heroes of the Taduma Forest at gmail.com and just email me. You can email your work if you want. You can email and ask about, what I charge for it and everything. Okay. So I'm also chomping at the bit to publish my second book in the HTF series, The Secrets of the Stone Castle. I'm so excited. But there are a few things I need to do before that. I want to give you a taste of it. So later on, I'm going to be reading 3 chapters from it. And you know what? Comment below. What do you think of it? Give me some feedback. That'd be great. I am interested in getting beta readers for it. So if you want to hear if you want to have a PDF of the whole book for free, then you can actually just email me again at the Heroes of the Taduma Forest at gmail.com. And you can ask for a copy and just answer a few questions. Tell me what you thought of it. And I think there are 4 questions that you answer. It's super easy. So if you're interested in being a beta reader, email me. What I would like to do is have some beta readers read it, make some changes, and then send it to my editor in the spring, is what I'm hoping. So some of you have wondered what education I have. I have a bachelor's degree in English literature, which means I read a whole lot in college, and I wrote a whole lot about what I read. Years later, I graduated from an interpreter program and became an interpreter for the deaf. But over the last 20 years, I have actually worked with children from newborn all the way through college. Okay, yes, I'm gonna act like I am that old that I can call college students children, but yeah, I've worked the whole gamut, all the different ages. I started working at daycare at age 19. And while I was in junior college, I tutored college kids. And after that, I worked with adult students in an ESL program. A year later, I tutored students from preschool all the way through high school. And then from 2007 to 2010, I was in the Middle East. And I taught kindergarten there. Of course, I learned more than my students. Seriously, when you travel, you know what I'm talking about if you do. You learn a whole lot more. You get a whole lot more than you give. And my life was completely changed after that. Coming back to the States was pretty difficult because reverse culture shock is a thing. And it was definitely a time of transition for me. So I decided to switch gears from teaching to interpreting. That's when I started interpreting for the deaf. And I worked with the deaf and hard of hearing college kids in a local college, junior college. And I loved almost every minute of it, but I really missed working with kids. So I started substituting, and then I started teaching sign language to kids, and I loved that. I mean, it brought the two of my passions together. Yeah, and then, of course, you teach every subject known to man, pretty much. So I've been able to develop ways of teaching that I think have really helped a lot of students. Not everybody, but a lot of students. And then I finally published one of the countless stories that I tell to my kids. Students love to hear their own names in stories. So I had done that a lot. But then, you also have to, now that it's, you're publishing, you gotta change names, for privacy issues, right? So, but I hope that you guys are as excited as I am to make these stories come to life. And so, yeah, another question I had was, how do I make these stories come to life? I have taught many people, adults and kids, how to read and how to write well. And I've also taught them how to love it along the way. So I try to be excited when I discuss reading and when I read. I read to my children and students all the time. It's something that is always happening. I'm known for my funny voices for my characters, and I tell you that just helps the children to really feel like they're part of the world that I've created. If you have littles at home, I suggest using funny voices and reading to them every day, whether they're in school or not. If you don't like doing voices, I know some people don't, there are audiobooks, and a lot of audiobooks for free. So take a book that you want to read to them and go either look on YouTube, sometimes YouTube has it, or on like Audible, those kinds of things. And then have them climb in your lap or sit next to you and listen while following along. So I always have them watch and look at the book, because that is how they'll learn those words and learn how they're pronounced and so, you know what I mean. So kids learn to read so much faster when they see the words on the page instead of just hearing it. How did I get my children to learn? How did I get my students to love to read? And I've got a story for you. It's a pretty funny one. So I had a student in the Middle East whose parents spoke Arabic, and he didn't know any English when he came into my classroom. So I was his first teacher. So it was hard for him, because like I asked him a question and he didn't know what I was saying, and so he started crying. And I was a brand new teacher, so I was like, oh my goodness, what am I doing wrong? You know. But I tried to make a fun class for him. I worked with him outside of class when I could. And he heard English all day long. And he enjoyed reading simple books. And then I would read children's literature to him, right? All the time. I never... this is one thing that I do that I don't really hear many people doing, but I really feel like it has helped a lot. So I don't dumb down any of my vocabulary in front of kids. But what I do is when I use a word that I know they don't know, okay, they're not going to understand it, I'll still say the word in the sentence. And then the very next sentence, I will use the definition of that word. So it's pretty much the same sentence twice, or a very similar sentence, but one has a big word in it and one has simpler words in it. So I'm not dumbing it down, I'm just making it simpler, right? And I'm describing what that word means so that they link those things together, the word with the definition. And it's funny because at first I don't think I really knew that I was doing it, but then as I started noticing, wow, these kids are really learning to read really fast. What am I doing that is helping? And I think a lot of it is this. And so I actually I took it and I translated it right over to my my book. So I do it in my writing. On page 6 of the Heroes of the Taduma Forest, I'm going to read it to you. Rhoda explains that Zilpa can't be there at the meeting. Where are we here? There we go. But she says, Zilpa is asking you, Emma, to be first on picket duty. Keep your eyes open for any wood elves and alert me if you see anything suspicious. So see how I use the words picket duty, right? And I defined it in the next sentence. See how, I defined it in the next sentence. Keep your eyes open, right? And alert me. So that's what picket duty means, right? It's a military term, but I use the word and then the definition for it. On page 9, I use the same technique with the word endangered. I said in the next sentence, we can't lose the ones we have. So losing, we're talking about butterflies in this instance. Losing butterflies, we have some, but we're losing them. So it's endangered. So those are just 2 of many examples in the book. So I build my students' vocabulary that way, and I don't think they even realized it while they're going through that, while I'm teaching them. I don't think they realize it, but then one day they stop and they go, I know a lot of words, and it's really fun to see them realize that. So it's fun. All right. I love having fun with them. I love creating games and plays for the books that we read. I remember doing this as a kid. I don't know if you did it as a kid. Comment below. And I also want to continue that with my students. Another question is, when did you start writing? So I can't remember that far back, but I do remember in 4th grade, I turned in this huge packet of papers to my poor English teacher. I had written some that went on, some story. I don't even remember what the story was, but it went on and on and on. And I look back and I feel so sorry for my teachers, because did they have to read all that? Or maybe they just skimmed it and put a grade. I feel so bad. But anyway, I remember at 12, I had this big, it was big, a big toy box, but it was like this tube. I don't know. I never ever saw it at anybody else's house, just mine. It had this weird lid that I would flip upside down, and it had a hollow spot, and I put all my Barbies in there and drive them around. That was my car. That was my Barbie car. But I had my toys in there, and then I would close it. And so yeah, I would sit on it because it was pretty stout. And I would sit by the window and I'd turn off all the lights, and I would barely be able to write. I couldn't see anything, but I would just write poetry. And then in the morning, sometimes I could read it and sometimes I couldn't, but that was a lot of fun. And I loved the way writing made me feel. It made me feel free, beautiful, alive. And if you felt like that, or comment in the chat, how do you feel when you write? My next question is, what's my favorite book? What's my favorite book? My favorite book is the Bible, but my favorite children's books are the Chronicles of Narnia. It might be a cliche, but C.S. Lewis is my favorite author, and I love it. And I've been reading a lot more fairy books, but nothing compares to C.S. Lewis. All right, so editing my work. How can I learn to edit my work, if you're asking that question? As funny as this sounds, I think you have to actually go back to your outline to edit well. let me explain. So when I do a good outline, and I'm not talking like in depth, I mean, some people do outlines 30,000 words for a novel, true, you know, a novel that's maybe 80,000 words plus, but a 30,000 word outline seems like, ugh. My thing is, if I write too much in my outline, I go, oh, I don't really want to write the book now. Like, I've already written the book. Here it is, you know, and that doesn't work for me. But like a skeleton of an outline, where I'm going, who's doing what, how, you know, and maybe how are they feeling through it, is good too. But just a skeleton of an outline, and then I go to the rough draft. And with me, I just throw everything out. I just type as fast as I can get all the words on the page. I don't think about editing. I don't think about what's the best way to write this, because I can do that later. With the outline though, my rough draft does go smoother, because I don't have to get stuck on this, like, what do I do? What do I do? You know, and you're going to have plot holes and all that kind of stuff. But I write my rough draft out. Don't overthink it. Just get it out. And then I will walk away from it. I walk away once I've done the draft, put it aside at least for a week. 3 months is probably better, but some of us don't have 3 months. Students don't have 3 months, right? When you're writing an essay or whatever. But even a day is better than nothing. But walk away, and then I come back and I focus on content, big picture. Okay, so does the action make sense? Does the plot make sense? That's a big one. Any plot holes? Like, wait a minute. This one in Secrets of the Stone Castle, one of my beta readers says, how did she get from here to the ceiling? You didn't tell me she flew. She was just here, and then all of a sudden here. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a plot hole, right? That's something that there's a hole there. So fill it in, right? Do the characters' personalities feel realistic? Do their actions match their personalities? Anything that feels forced or confusing, that's a big one. And then that, for me, it took months to edit, right? And for the Heroes of the Tuduma Forest, I was editing for a very long time. And that's good. I rewrote it a lot. And that's what we want. We want to get better and better. But after that content editing, I will go sentence by sentence. Okay. So now it's copy editing, right? So I want to work on, how is the sentence, how does it sound? Does it sound good? Is there a better word maybe that I can use? Those kinds of things. And then proofreading is everything spelled correctly? How's my grammar? Is there supposed to be a colon here, a semicolon? Those, yeah. And I'm going to be actually doing a video not too long from now, probably in January, where I'm going to teach what's a colon for, what's a semicolon for, those kinds of things, all punctuation. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. And you know what? My editor took 6 months to edit. Of course, the last step is to send it to your editor. And that's a really important step. Don't forget that if you're writing a novel or a children's book. She took about 6 months to edit. And so it was a whole year from start to finish to publish The Heroes of the Tuduma Forest. I think the Secrets of the Stone Castle could be out in the fall still, because I've gone through a lot of the editing stage, but we'll see. Again, we're hoping. So the editor goes through the same process that I just said, content, copy, and then proofreading. And then the book is ready to publish. So if you are interested in becoming an editor and, start practicing the things that I just said, and then investigate classes for it at maybe a local college. They should have some. All right, so now I'm going to read chapters 1 to 3 in The Heroes of the Taduma Forest, The Secrets of the Stone Castle. Chapter 1, The Weight of the World. Rainbows danced around the canopy as Emma zipped through the forest. She soared to the top of the rubber trees, landed on a glistening green and maroon leaf, and lay down to examine her world. Inhaling the earthy sweetness of the plants and flowers, she smiled. 2 weeks had passed since the Great War, which the fairies now called the Battle of the Butterflies. All was quiet. Emma's smile faded as she gazed over the forest. How am I supposed to be head of the council now that Zilpa's gone? I did one brave thing and killed the Elf King, and everyone expects me to be their leader. I have no idea if I can protect them from danger. Frowning, she squinted. What's that? In the distance, a green speck flew toward her, disappearing, then reappearing. As it came closer, she stood up. It was a praying mantis. The insect dropped into the long brown grasses beneath the tree and vanished again. Emma leaned over the edge of the leaf and scanned the ground below, wondering what happened to the carnivore. 4 powerful wings shot out of the grass. The praying mantis landed on the shimmering leaf and towered over the tiny fairy. He had bulgy yellow eyes and gangly legs. His antennae gave the impression that he had angry eyebrows. With his long, spiked arm, he jabbed Emma. She flung herself into the air. Too late. His daggers had cut her. Emma grimaced. You're going to have to work real hard to eat this fairy. Since the Battle of the Butterflies, Emma had learned a few new tricks. She gathered sunshine in her wings and heated the air right above the insect. The hotter air mixed with the cool air of dusk, producing wind, which forced the praying mantis over the edge of the leaf. He tumbled to the ground. Twitching his wings, he stopped. As Emma floated to the ground, he lunged toward her. Oh, you aren't going to quit, are you? She asked. She created a glowing ball of light and hurled it at the bug. The praying mantis turned to charcoal and fell at her feet. A blue fairy flew around the corner of a Cape aloe and cried out, Emma! Did you see that? Emma asked. Look how big he was. You could have been killed. What are we doing out here? We've got to get out of here. Sapphire, you're okay. He's dead. Emma tried to comfort the blue fairy. The blue fairy's disheveled hair shook as she turned away. You don't understand, she said. Sapphire wore an attractive teal dress and adorable feather shoes, but always seemed so sad. Her jagged blue wings resembled leaves at the end of fall when they have endured such harsh winds. Even the slightest breeze could strip them off the tree. She acted like a leaf too, flitting here and there. Since the Battle of the Butterflies, I have been so anxious. Yeah, I thought we were goners, Emma interrupted. But I'm grateful Nala used her powers to bring the butterflies. I know they helped us defeat the wood elves, but are we even sure the elves are gone? I feel like they're going to come back and get me. I'm so... Sapphire, we annihilated the elves. There aren't any more. You shouldn't be afraid. The butterflies settled in the citrus groves right outside our forest. They and the council agreed to an alliance. They'll come if we need them. We should get back to living our lives. The blue fairy sighed. Oh, what life. I can hardly sleep, and when I do, I have nightmares about the war. I've barely left my house. You have a life. You took Zilpa's place as head of the council. You have powers. You can help people. I can't help anybody. Emma reached out for Sapphire's shoulder. You can help others. What about your student? Emma! Olivia's voice resonated through the forest as she bounded toward them on Jitters. Chapter 2, Scared Stiff. Sapphire flew backward. Is that an elf riding a tarantula? She wondered. No, Emma's sister Olivia was riding a giant squirrel. She sat on his back like a queen. Her blue hair tumbled down like a rushing wave. Olivia hopped off and gave a reserved nod to Sapphire. Ugh, Jitters made me ill with his constant jerking. Olivia cut a glance at the squirrel. How do you control him, Emma? The squirrel lurched over to Sapphire. He had furry ears and a huge tail, twice as long as his body. With a low growl, he sniffed at the blue fairy. He jerked around and flicked his puffy tail right in her face. With a mouth full of fur, she sputtered, "Pah, pah, pah." Closing her eyes, Sapphire batted his tail with both hands. The rodent gave her a blank stare over his shoulder and leapt away. Raising a rusted key in her hand, Olivia explained, "A month ago, I found this key in an old box Mother left behind. Tonight, I read one of her journals, and it said the key opens the gatehouse at Castle Mount. Let's go now." Emma took off like a bird chasing a dragonfly, her wings capturing just enough light and dew to create a rainbow path that lingered in the air. Olivia mounted the squirrel. "Giddy up, Jitters! Follow Emma!" And with that, Jitters and Olivia vanished in the twilight. "Sure, I'll come with you. Thanks for asking." Sapphire sucked in her breath. Maybe Emma's right. I shouldn't be so scared. I should live my life. She turned toward Castle Mount. From far away, the castle appeared innocent, almost whimsical. It wouldn't be too scary, right? Hiding behind trees and glancing over her shoulder again and again, Sapphire skittered up the mountain. Coming to the river, she paused. Mist formed wispy figures above the water. "I hope that's just haze and not elves," she said, zooming past. Ascending the mountain was tedious work, though. As she got nearer, the castle appeared more intimidating, its lofty stone towers faded into the night sky. The wrought iron gates ahead seemed to call out, "Don't come near, run away!" Sapphire froze. "I should run away. I just wanted to go home. I'm not valiant. I'm a deserter." "Sapphire," Emma called from behind a bush. "You came." The blue fairy flittered over to the two sisters and Jitters, but they weren't alone. Nala and Tina stood next to them. Sapphire twitched her wings. "I shouldn't be here," she thought. "These are true heroes." Nala grinned. Her dark skin, the color of black garnet, shimmered. Her coiled hair bounced around her face. "I didn't know you'd be here, Sapphire. The more combatants, the better." She winked at Tina. "Wait, why? What's in that castle?" Sapphire stuttered. Tina touched the full quiver of arrows at her hip. Anything. We prepared for the adventure of a lifetime. She opened a brown satchel and showed everyone what was inside. Chin-chin and other snacks. She pulled out the chin-chin. I brought enough food to feed an army. All the fairies took some, even Sapphire. With her mouth full, she asked, Are we really going in there? The 4 fairies called out in unison, Yeebo! Chapter 3, Scandalous Secrets. They left Jitters marching back and forth outside as Olivia unlocked the gate. Using her super strength, she pushed it open. The fairies, with Sapphire plodding behind, advanced through the bailey and into the heart of the castle. They entered a dim hallway lined with doors. Olivia turned the knob and pushed against the first one, but it didn't budge. It's locked. Emma glanced down the hallway. My guess is they're all locked. Let's check out the rest of the castle. She rushed around a corner and disappeared. Olivia, Nala, and Tina followed. Sapphire's wings twitched. I can't believe this. Her voice echoed off the walls, and she ducked. They might want to investigate this spooky castle, she whispered, but not me. She checked the second door. It was open. The fairy slipped in and closed the door. Except for a staircase spiraling down into the darkness, the room was empty. Sapphire plopped on the top step. I'm going to sit here till they come back. I hope nothing dangerous lives down there, she thought. Suddenly, a light shone from the bottom of the staircase. Sapphire bolted toward the door and grabbed the handle. Please, help me. I'm trapped, a faint voice called out. She hesitated. The cry sounded like a young fairy, like one of the students in her flight school. She imagined him trapped by a rope, beating his wings as hard as he could, yet unable to get away. Could she even help him? Her mind flashed back to 2 weeks ago, during the Battle of the Butterflies. Sword drawn, Sapphire had stood her ground until she saw a giant tarantula bite Silpa. Silpa breathed her last right in front of Sapphire. The blue fairy panicked as the elves slunk toward Sapphire on all sides, drawing their own weapons. Her sword slipped from her hands into the river. With nowhere to go and nothing to do, she sprang into the air and fled from the battle. Sapphire was the only fairy who abandoned her post that day. Ever since, shame was a constant companion. Tonight, though, as she thought about her failure and her students, she vowed to be the hero she always wanted to be. What if a baby fairy needs me? I must at least try. She crept down the stairs, her wings drooped, and her hands pressed against the walls, balancing her shaky figure. Reaching the bottom, she stepped into a wide room. All right, that is all that I'm going to read for now. If you are interested in being a beta reader, comment below or just email me again at theheroesofthetadumaforest@gmail.com. And I hope you have a great day and a great start to 2025. If you have any New Year's resolutions, I'd like to hear those too. All right, take care. Bye.